In part 1, I talked about how Rio was selected to host the 2016 Olympic Games. Such a big event costs a lot of money, so I want to talk about exactly how much that is and who is paying for it. In total, about $9.9 billion were spent in the Olympic Games. This money has several different sources and is managed by separate groups depending on what it will be spent on. Initially, this might seem too complicated, but we'll understand this and you will see that it is pretty interesting. The money is split in three parts. The first one, which totals $1.9 billion, is managed by the organizing committee. This committee, as its name says, is responsible for organizing the games. For instance, they take care of the open ceremony, pay the wages for workers supporting the event, offer health, safety, meals, accommodation, transport, telecom, and anything else involved in the operation of the game. They are not responsible for any construction and are a non-profit entity. As such, there isn't a single government cent in these $1.9 billion. So where does the money come from? More than half of it comes from sponsors, big companies like Bradesco, Coke, and McDonald's. The Olympic Games are broadcast to millions of people in the whole world and therefore is an excellent stage to advertise these brands. The IOC puts in another 25% of the total cash, and the rest comes from the games themselves, from things like ticket sales, product licensing, and so on. The finances of the committee are transparent. Everything is published in the official sites. The second part of the resources, about $1.8 billion, is reserved for spending being executed exclusively because of the Games. In other words, if there were no Rio 2016, none of this cash would be spent. Who handles this budget is something called Autoridade Pública Olímpica, or APO. This is a government consortium which includes the federal government, state, and the city of Rio. These $1.8 billion group 47 projects, and most of the money comes from the private sector through partnerships. You might be wondering why would the private sector would be interested in investing money from its own pocket to finance constructions being made exclusively because of the games. The reasoning is simple. They want to make money on it later. Let's take the Olympic Village as an example. The construction is gigantic. It'll cost $740 million, all from the private sector. These are several buildings in a premium spot that will host 15,000 athletes, but after the games will be private housing compounds in one of the most growing regions of Rio. That's when the private sector will get its returns. Other examples of projects under the APO are revamps in Maracanã and Future Arena, which will be, in theory, converted to city schools after the games. Just like the committee, APO spend is transparent. Every semester they publish a spreadsheet that has the situation of each project, costs, scheduling, who pays for it, and who executes it. The third part of the money is in a public policy plan. This portfolio of $6.2 billion holds the legacy builds. These are mobility, environment, urbanization, education, and culture projects, which are being either anticipated or enlarged because of the Olympic Games. In theory, the legacy of these builds will be useful to Rio even after the Games. Some examples of these projects include a LRV, roads, port revamps, and metro expansion. A good portion of this cash also comes from the private sector, especially in partnerships with Rio's government. This budget slicing may seem confusing, but in fact it is a good thing. Knowing that the Olympics will cost in total $9.9 billion is good, but even better is knowing how much of this spend will be recovered in the Games, how much is spent exclusively because of them, and how much will be left as legacy after the fact. It is also important to remember that a large portion of the resources come from the private sector. $5.6 billion of the total sum comes from the private sector. That includes advertising as well as investments that will be recovered in time. Leveraging private resources like this is good for everybody. It does not burden the government, but generates business opportunities and creates jobs and even more taxes, which is great for the government. $9.9 billion for the Olympic Games. Is that expensive or cheap? The most objective way to answer that is to compare it to other games, especially the last two in London and China. Each one of these costs $15 billion. When you look at it from that angle, Rio's 2016 program seems reasonable. But don't forget that it had venues ready from the Pan American Games, which did not necessarily happen to China and London. Still, that's a lot of money. Even if we consider just the government portion, it still is a lot of money. At the time Rio designed its candidature, everything seemed favorable. Nobody imagined the crisis that we are in today, among corruption scandals, drop in government income due to smaller oil royalties, and public health challenges. Sweden, for instance, recently placed a bid to host the Winter Games for 2022. After thinking on it and evaluating the budget, though, it did not have political support and the bid was cancelled. Krakow, Poland's second largest city, did something very interesting in 2014. It launched a referendum with 4 questions on hosting the 2022 Winter Games, building a subway system, putting CCTV in place to improve public security, and building more cycle lanes. Care to guess what happened? All of them were approved, except hosting the Winter Games. Right after this result, the city withdrew its candidacy. Hosting the Olympic Games in Rio brings us a lot of advantages and opportunities, but it also means not doing several things and taking on some risks. My intention with this video is to sum up the facts so that you can form your own opinion. If you want more details, look in the video's description. This is a link to part 1 in case you haven't watched it. Please debate about this topic in the comment section below. And if you liked the video, subscribe and help me by sharing the video with others.